Please, Aunt Clara, I'm tired, whispered Lily, her tiny hands trembling as she scrubbed the cold marble floor. The bucket of dirty water reflected her teary eyes. Eyes that once sparkled before her parents died. The mansion that once echoed with laughter now felt like a prison. Every step she took was heavy with fear, and every breath carried a silent prayer that someone somewhere would save her. Clara's voice echoed through the long corridor again, sharp and cruel. I said no rest until the floor shines. You think this house will clean itself? Lily flinched, quickly dipping the rag back into the bucket, even though her fingers were already raw from scrubbing all morning. She was only 8 years old, yet she carried the weight of a life far older. Above, the old clock struck noon. Lily's stomach grumbled softly, but there was no lunch for her. Aunt Clara always said food was for those who worked hard enough to deserve it. The woman sat comfortably in the parlor, sipping tea and scrolling through her phone, pretending to be a loving guardian to the outside world. Whenever neighbors visited, Clara would smile sweetly and say, "Lily is such a blessing to have around." But behind closed doors, Lily was nothing more than a maid. A small trembling shadow in a big empty mansion. Outside, the world moved on. Children played, laughter filled the air, and the sun painted the sky gold. But for Lily, time stood still. Every day felt like a repeat of the last. Wake up before sunrise, clean the rooms, wash the dishes, and pray Aunt Clara wouldn't find another reason to yell. Sometimes when the nights grew too quiet, Lily would sneak to the window and whisper to the stars, "Mom, Dad, if you can hear me, please. I'm trying to be brave." One evening, as she finished her chores, Lily found an old photo album hidden under the sofa. Dust covered its cover, but she carefully opened it. Her heart ached as she saw her parents smiling beside a tall man she didn't recognize. Her father's arm was around the man's shoulder, and they both looked happy. Under the photo was a name written in faded ink, "Ethan, my brother." Lily traced the name with her finger, whispering it like a secret. She didn't know who he was or where he went. But for the first time in years, she felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe this Ethan still existed. Maybe he could help her. At night, Clara caught her looking at the album and snatched it away. "Don't go snooping where you don't belong," she snapped, tossing the book into a box. Lily lowered her head, blinking back tears. Clara never allowed her to talk about her parents or ask questions. "Forget the past," she'd always say. "It's just you and me now, and you'd better learn to obey." Lily whispered softly, "Yes, Aunt Clara." But deep down, she promised herself that she'd never stop remembering. Far away, miles from the gloomy mansion, a man drove along a quiet road. The sun dipped low, casting an orange glow over the fields. His name was Ethan Rivers, a successful businessman known for his kindness and generosity. Yet behind his calm smile, his heart carried guilt. He hadn't seen his brother in over 10 years. Work had taken him abroad, and one missed call turned into years of silence. Then one morning a letter arrived. An old envelope containing a photo of a little girl who looked strikingly familiar. On the back, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, "This is Lily, your brother's daughter. She needs you." Ethan couldn't believe it. His brother was gone, and he hadn't even known. He immediately canceled his meetings, packed his bags, and boarded the next flight home. As he drove now, he replayed memories of their childhood. The promises they made to always look out for each other. The laughter they shared before life pulled them apart. And now all that was left was a child, his niece, living under the care of someone he'd never met. Back at the mansion, the day had grown darker. Lily sat alone in the kitchen, too tired to move. Her hands ached, her back hurt, but she knew better than to rest before finishing her chores. Clara's friends had come over earlier, and the woman had ordered Lily to serve tea and biscuits, warning her not to embarrass her. One of the guests, an older lady, had noticed Lily's bruised wrist and asked softly, "Sweetheart, are you all right?" Before Lily could answer, Clara laughed it off. "Oh, she's just clumsy, always running into things." The women chuckled, and Lily forced a smile, holding back tears. No one saw through Clara's lies. Later that night, when Clara went to bed, Lily sneaked outside to the garden. The wind was cold, but she didn't mind. She sat on the old stone bench, hugging her knees. "I wish someone would come for me," she whispered. "Anyone." She didn't know that at that very moment, Ethan's car was only a few towns away, speeding through the night. The next morning, Clara woke Lily up before dawn. "Up! The floors aren't done, and my guests are coming again tonight." Lily stumbled out of bed, rubbing her eyes. "But Aunt Clara, I finished them yesterday. Are you arguing with me now?" Clara barked. Lily shook her head quickly, picking up the mop. Every time she tried to rest, Clara found more work for her. Folding laundry, polishing furniture, scrubbing walls. The list never ended. Her little body was exhausted, but her spirit refused to break. Somewhere deep inside, she believed her parents were watching her, proud of how strong she tried to be. By noon, Lily could barely stand. She leaned against the wall, her breathing shallow. Clara noticed and shouted, "Don't even think about fainting. You'll clean until I say you're done." But before Lily could move, the sound of an engine roared outside. A sleek black car pulled up to the gate. Clara frowned, muttering, "Who on earth is that?" The doorbell rang. When she opened it, a tall man stood there in a crisp suit, holding a photo in his hand. "Is this where Lily Rivers lives?" he asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. Clara's heart skipped. "Lily? Oh yes. She's here, poor thing. My late sister's child. I've been taking care of her all these years." She forced a fake smile. "And you are?" Ethan stepped inside, his eyes scanning the hallway, the dusty furniture, and the faint smell of cleaning chemicals. "I'm her uncle," he said, his tone sharp. "Ethan Rivers." Clara's smile faltered. "Oh well, we've been doing our best." But before she could finish, Ethan heard a small noise from the kitchen. A faint sound of coughing. He followed it, ignoring Clara's protests. When he entered the kitchen, his heart stopped. There on the floor was Lily, pale, exhausted, clutching a mop. For a second, he couldn't speak. The photo in his hand trembled. It was the same little girl from the picture, but thinner, sadder, broken. "Lily," he whispered, kneeling beside her. She looked up, startled. Who are you?" Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "I'm your uncle," he said softly. "I'm here to take you home." Lily stared at him, unsure if it was real. "Home," she repeated. Clara rushed in, shouting, "You can't just take her. She belongs here." Ethan turned, his expression hard. "Belongs? Look at her. Is this what you call care?" Clara stuttered. She helps around." "She's a child," he thundered, his voice echoing through the mansion. Clara froze, realizing she had lost control. Ethan gently picked Lily up, her head resting on his shoulder. For the first time, she felt safe. As they walked toward the door, Lily whispered weakly, "Will I really go home with you?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. You'll never have to cry again." She smiled faintly, her small fingers clutching his coat. Outside, the sunlight broke through the clouds, shining on her face. It felt like her parents were watching from above. Their little girl finally free. In the car, Ethan promised himself he would give Lily the life she deserved. Love, care, and happiness. She looked out the window as the mansion disappeared behind them. For the first time, the world didn't look so lonely. She leaned against him and whispered, "Thank you for coming." Ethan's voice broke as he replied, "I'm sorry I took so long." That day marked a new beginning, a story of pain turned into one of hope, where a lost little girl finally found her family again. The car stopped before the old mansion, its tires crunching over the gravel driveway that hadn't been cleaned in years. The air was thick with silence. Inside, Lily froze, her heart pounding as she peeked from behind the kitchen door. She saw a tall man step out of the sleek black car. The same man she had seen in the photo hidden inside the old album. His face was kind but tense, and his eyes scanned the house like he was searching for something he'd lost long ago. Who could that be? Aunt Clara muttered, wiping her hands on her apron before plastering on her fake smile. She had no idea that her years of cruelty were about to end. When Ethan Rivers stepped inside, the smell of dust and cleaning chemicals hit him. The mansion looked grand from the outside, but inside it felt lifeless, like it hadn't known joy in years. "Can I help you?" Clara asked sweetly, pretending to be a caring guardian. Ethan showed her the photograph, the one with his brother and a little girl. "I'm looking for Lily Rivers," he said, his tone calm but firm. Clara's fake smile faltered for a second. "Oh, Lily. Yes, of course. Poor thing. I've been taking care of her ever since my dear sister passed. Such a difficult child, but we manage." She tried to laugh it off, but Ethan's sharp eyes caught the nervous twitch in her hands. "May I see her?" he asked. Of course," Clara said quickly, turning toward the kitchen. "Lily," she called, her voice suddenly sugary sweet. "Come out, dear. Someone's here to see you." There was no reply. After a moment, Ethan walked past her, following a faint sound, a soft cough from the corner of the kitchen. And there she was, a tiny girl with tangled hair and bruised hands, sitting on the cold floor beside a half-filled bucket. Her eyes widened when she saw him, and the rag slipped from her trembling fingers. Ethan's chest tightened. The sight of her broke him. This was his brother's child, his niece. And she looked like she hadn't been loved in years. "Lily," he whispered, his voice shaking. The name felt heavy on his tongue, like it had been waiting too long to be spoken. She looked at him with confusion and fear, unsure if she was dreaming. Who are you?" she asked softly. He knelt down beside her, his heart pounding. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Your father's brother." Her lips parted, eyes filling with tears. She remembered that name, the name written in faded ink beneath the photograph she once found. "Uncle Ethan," she whispered. Before he could answer, Clara stepped forward quickly. "She's been lazy and stubborn," she said sharply, always pretending to be weak to avoid her chores. But the moment Ethan looked up at her, she froze. His glare was cold and full of disbelief. "Chores," he said slowly, standing to his full height. "She's a child. Look at her hands." He gently took Lily's small hands in his own. They were red, blistered, and trembling. "You call this care?" Clara stammered. I was only trying to teach her responsibility." But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. He bent down, lifted Lily into his arms as if she were made of glass, and said quietly, "You're coming home with me." Lily's arms wrapped weakly around his neck. She didn't know what home meant anymore, but the way he held her, safe, gentle, warm, told her it wasn't another lie. Clara tried to protest. "You can't just take her. I'm her guardian." Ethan turned, his expression darkening. "Not anymore." With that, he walked out, leaving the front door wide open behind him. The sunlight hit Lily's face as they stepped outside, and she blinked against the brightness. It felt like she was seeing the world for the first time. As the car drove away, Lily stared out the window, watching the mansion grow smaller until it disappeared behind the trees. She didn't say much, only holding the photograph Ethan had given her. "Was that my dad?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled sadly. "Yes, sweetheart. He was my brother. He would be so proud of you." Lily's eyes welled up again. "I miss him," she whispered. "I know," Ethan replied, brushing a tear from her cheek. "But from now on, you're not alone. I promise." When they arrived at his house, Lily was stunned. It wasn't just big. It was beautiful, filled with warmth. The walls were painted soft colors. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. But what caught her attention most wasn't the size or beauty. It was the laughter of the people inside. The housekeeper smiled and greeted her kindly. "Welcome home, Miss Lily." The words made her heart skip. Home. She had almost forgotten what that felt like. The first few days were strange for Lily. Every time she heard footsteps, she flinched, expecting to be yelled at. When she accidentally dropped a glass, she ran to pick it up before anyone could get angry. But instead of shouting, Ethan simply said, "It's all right, sweetheart. It's just a glass." That night, she cried quietly in her room. Not out of sadness, but because for the first time, someone was kind to her. She didn't know how to handle kindness after so long. Ethan watched her from the doorway, his heart aching. He had missed so many years, birthdays, first days of school, moments when she needed someone to protect her. "Never again," he whispered to himself. He made sure she had everything she needed. New clothes, books, toys, but most importantly, love. Every morning, he'd sit with her at breakfast, asking about her dreams, her favorite colors, her memories. At first, she answered shyly, barely whispering. But slowly, she began to smile more, laugh more, talk more. One afternoon, he found her standing in front of the mirror, wearing a new dress. "Do I look okay?" she asked, spinning slowly. "You look perfect," he said, smiling. She giggled, a real bright laugh that filled the room like sunlight. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. "Thank you, Uncle Ethan," she said softly. "For everything." He crouched down to her level. "No, sweetheart. Thank you for reminding me what family really means." She didn't understand at first, but she hugged him tightly anyway, resting her head on his shoulder. Days turned into weeks. Lily began attending school, and the teachers often called to tell Ethan how polite and hardworking she was. She made friends, learned to paint, and even started writing little stories about angels and happy families. Sometimes she'd still wake up from nightmares about her aunt shouting, but Ethan was always there to comfort her. "You're safe now," he'd whisper, tucking her back into bed. One Sunday, they visited her parents' grave together. Lily placed a small bouquet of white flowers on the stone and knelt quietly. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Dad," she whispered. "I'm okay now. Uncle Ethan takes care of me. You don't have to worry anymore." Ethan stood behind her, unable to stop his tears. For years, he had buried his guilt under work. But now, standing there with Lily, he finally felt peace. They both stayed in silence for a long time, letting the wind carry away the pain of the past. When they returned home that evening, the house was filled with the smell of freshly baked cookies. Lily ran inside laughing, her eyes bright. She had found her joy again, not because of gifts or luxury, but because she was loved. That night, she drew a picture. A tall man holding a little girl's hand under a blue sky. She wrote underneath, "Me and Uncle Ethan, my forever family." Ethan found it the next morning and smiled, framing it in his office. Months later, when reporters asked Ethan about his sudden decision to take a long break from work, he simply said, "I realize success means nothing if you forget who you're doing it for." The world saw him as a millionaire. But to Lily, he was simply the man who gave her back her childhood. As the years passed, their bond grew stronger. Lily no longer cried herself to sleep or feared footsteps in the hallway. Every morning, she woke up to laughter and warmth. And every night she whispered a small prayer. Thank you for sending him back. Because sometimes family isn't just who you're born with. It's who shows up when the world forgets you. And for Lily, her uncle's return wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of a new life filled with love, healing, and hope.